Gosh, it's really coming down.
Sir, get out of the car!
I was aware of the project and I was keeping an eye on it because it sounded interesting. And then when they hired Antoine, I got a call pretty quick after that to come and meet him. And I immediately thought of Training Day, which is one of my favorite films, and I was really excited to work with him because of that. But I also, you know, he had done other visual effects films like King Arthur. But the first day in the production meeting, the first thing he said was, "This is not a visual effects movie." That's what he said to the whole crew. So we'll have a lot of visual effects in the movie, but I think what he was trying to say was the story drives this.
Anton on this picture wanted to make sure it felt real.
You'd start on ready, and
that we didn't hold back any punches as far as the brutality of what was going on. Go! And then he also wanted to make sure that certain things seemed like they were planned and organized. So visual effects made it all seem real.
There's a lot of visual effects components to this movie. And in terms of photography, the majority of the scenes we've shot have had some visual effects component to them. Even the interior spaces, which we would think would be relatively safe, have muzzle flash enhancements on the guns or monitor replacements where we have monitors but we don't have the pieces to put in them yet.
I am the man in control of your White House. Now stand your men down.
And then, of course, in the exterior environments, almost everything ends up being replaced to create a Washington, D.C. feel. So I really took Antoine's directive to heart and to try and not think of this like a visual effects movie, but we're here to sort of fill in the gaps, and there are an awful lot of gaps.
Shut him down.
You're not shutting me down, Kang. I'm here to stay.
Two of the more significant visual effects challenges we had in the film were the taking of the White House and the Camp David sequence. The Camp David sequence involved a few different types of effects because we're cutting back and forth a lot. So initially we're at Camp David. That is a real structure, but it's the middle of summer, so there's leaves on the trees, there's no snow. So basically we were able to use the building, but essentially everything else has been replaced, except the human beings and the cars and the building. Everything else is CG. As soon as we leave Camp David, when we start driving, any exterior shot of the cars is a completely CG creation. The cars, the road, the trees, the snow, everything. It's all CG. The interiors of the cars were all shot on a stage with green screen outside the windows, and the backgrounds of those, when those green screens were replaced, is a completely CG creation as well. So all CG trees out there as well, all CG snow. Once we get to the bridge, we have a set piece about 80 feet long with the edge of the bridge, and the car was rigged by the special effects department to teeter on the edge of it. And so we could actually have our actors in there teetering on the edge of this bridge. But everything outside of that little space that we built is a big CG creation as well. So all the trees, all the falling snow, the river below, the rest of the bridge, everything, it's all CG. And then, you know, the sort of the big finale shot of the sequence where we pull up and away, and ultimately a helicopter comes in. Obviously, we didn't have the helicopter. We also didn't have all the cars. We didn't have the whole bridge, on and on and on. So that opens the movie, and apart from the interiors in the cabin, every shot's a visual effect in that opening of the movie, yeah. After the Camp David disaster, we quickly find ourselves in the midst of the White House being taken over by Korean terrorists. There were two big divisions of work in the C-130 sequence. There's anything that's in the air, so that would be the C-130, the F-22s, the missiles, the Angel Wing decoy flares, the Washington Monument collapse, all that stuff. Anything's airborne. And then there was the ground impact of that attack, which was all a separate piece of the puzzle, and they were kind of approached differently. So all the ground level stuff, which is people running, people getting shot at by the plane is maybe in those shots, but the primary element is essentially real stuff we photographed in Shreveport, people running around, practical stunts, practical effects. aerial stuff, we had significant limitations on what we were able to capture in Washington, D.C. So you can't really get permits to shoot anything of the stuff we needed to shoot, which was like flying around over the White House. So we had to create a completely virtual version of Washington, D.C. for the film. And then obviously we didn't have a C-130, we didn't have an F-22. So both of those had to be virtually created as well.
Everything in that C-130 sequence that doesn't involve some person that you see was CG. So all the aerials, all the planes, we used background plates for the ground, but basically everything is CG.
But throughout that process, we had to choreograph the plane's movements, and there were certain key things that were not necessarily organic, but that were important images to get across. One was the plane flying over the Lincoln Memorial. Everybody loved that image. They really wanted to do it. That flight path over the Lincoln Memorial doesn't really make any sense if you're flying towards the White House, but we said, okay, well, we're going to do that. And there were versions of this story where the ground attack started while the plane was still in the air. So it evolved over a period of time to figure out the best plan, but it took quite a while to actually figure out how to do it and also still keep it cinematic and fun.
Olympus has fallen. Olympus has fallen.
Well, I'm very happy with the movie, and I think it really works. It gives the audience a good thrill ride, and it makes sense, keep them on the edge of the seats.
Go back!
I think it's going to be an exciting ride. I mean, there's an awful lot of big, cool stuff happening, and yet what Antoine's done is he's kept the film grounded. So it's big and it's epic, but it's also a story that you can support.
Go on! Get down!